A woman tried to break into my car yesterday to rescue my dog from 60-degree weather. Anyone else have stories of idiotic vigilantes? I took my dog to the park one day and had brought her treats, water, toys, etc. After the park, I went into Verizon Wireless to get my upgraded phone that I had pre-ordered a few days before. I cracked my windows, and it was the fall, so it was around 65 to 70 degrees. I was in there for 15 minutes, because the person helping me was setting up my phone. All of a sudden we heard a loud chatter and a car alarm. I looked outside and a woman had broken into my car. I ran outside saying, "What the hell are you doing, you crazy bitch?" And she said, "Your dog is hot. You leave her in here too long, so I take her. You bad owner." She attempted grabbing my dog, and my dog bit her. She was 1 at the time, and she's a boxer. She never attacks anyone, but this woman had dragged her on my seats and there was glass everywhere. She called the police demanding that I be fined, and that my dog gets put to sleep. The officers arrested the woman and made her pay thousands of dollars in fines, repairs and my dog's vet bill. I hate people that assume that leaving your dog in the car means you're a bad owner. My dog loves me. I take care of her and she's my best friend. I would never put her in a situation where she would be hurt because of my actions. TLDR, left dog in car for 15 minutes in nice weather. Woman breaks window, dog attacks her and she tried to get my dog put to sleep. Reminds me of the time when 6-year-old me left my life-size, but non-realistic, obviously fabric with permanent stupid grin, toy dog in the back of my dad's car in moderate heat. Some woman had been trying to get into the car for a good 10 minutes, scratching the door in the process, and stood screaming at us whilst my dad tried to tell her it was a toy. She wouldn't even accept it when we got the motionless toy dog out of the car and showed her the care label. In fact, she only went away when the manager of the shop where we parked at came outside to see what the hell was going on. TLDR, similar situation but with obviously toy dog. Best crazy advice I ever got was from my neighbor while I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I decided for my own sanity, and possibly just to feel a little American at home, to get a dog. Upon hearing about my plans to get a puppy, she spent an hour lecturing me about how I had to let my dog out to eat trash, so that when my dog got out to eat trash she would not get sick from eating trash. I did my best to assure her that my dog would at no point be out eating trash. She dismissed me as crazy and told me my dog would die from eating trash. Every time I walked my dog she would point at trash. My dog is still alive and not eating trash. This story confounds me. Lady thinks that eating trash builds up the dog's immunity to trash-borne disease. Little does she know, that's a built-in feature of dogs. I went to the grocery store with my dog in the car on a ridiculously hot day. I brought 2 keys, so I could lock the car door with the engine still running and AC on. As I walked away from my car, some woman actually jumped out of the passenger side of a moving vehicle and starts screaming. I say, the engine's running and the AC is on. She doesn't miss a beat and keeps screaming about how it's too hot to have my dog in the car. I repeated myself. She then turned and stormed off. Apparently I was an asshole for not letting her have her moment of de-good glory. We lived in Montana, and it was freaking freezing. I had my roughly 3-month-old daughter in a fleece sweater and pants, covered in a blanket. In line at a dollar store, she starts to cry. The lady keeps telling me she's cold. I told her she's in fleece in a store with heat, she's not cold. She kept insisting she was cold. I told her she's hungry, it's her feed me cry, she's not cold. As the lady starts getting louder about how us young mothers don't know anything, people naturally started to look. As she continued to scream at me, I told her my child is hungry. See? And lift up my shirt, pop out my tit, and my daughter just went to town. Lady just left her things there and walked out. I worked at an ice cream parlor a while back, and we made our own ice cream, waffle cones, chocolates, fudge, etc. Well, one day I'm making the waffle cones and I wasn't being careful. When I went to take a cone off the iron, the top of the iron fell on the top of my hand. I got a pretty good waffle shaped burn from it. No biggie, I got it taken care of, but I had a pretty good waffle pattern on my hand for a long time after that. Probably a month after it happened, I had a couple come in who saw my burn while I was giving them their ice cream. They were super concerned about it, and I told them it was nothing, just carelessness on my part. They wouldn't let it go, and were convinced that I was being abused in the workplace. They wrote out all sorts of information for me, an abuse hotline, website, etc., and gave it to me before they left. They came in a couple more times and checked up on me. Just strange that they wouldn't accept that the burn wasn't intentional. That reminds me of the time I was going for a walk in the rain, like a lot of people do, and it put me in a really good mood. So I decided to walk to Starbucks and called up a friend to meet me there. When she arrived, she brought her mother and said that she and her father were very worried about me. She was convinced that I was upset, running away from home, had a fight with my parents, etc. Totally ruined my rain walking high. I was house dog sitting one summer a couple of years ago. It was an admittedly hot day, but the dogs were anxious to go outside, so I decided they could go outside and play, and piss in the yard for about 30 minutes before they needed to come back in. They were a pair of two poorly trained hound mixes, and would bark at just about anything that offered interaction. After about 15 minutes, I hear them barking much more than usual, and I come out, and there is some lady shouting at the dogs from the side of the lawn, getting them all kinds of riled up. I ask her what the hell she's doing, and she starts going off about how she's going to call the animal warden, and how I'm torturing these dogs. Look at how they are barking and howling, like they are in pain, she says. She's dancing around in front of the dogs, taunting them and shouting at them, and then she has the audacity to tell me that these dogs are barking because they want to come inside. I also don't think my town had an animal warden, and if we did, I don't think she would give two ducks. A friend's neighbor called the fire department on a bonfire we were having. Not only was the whole group decently quiet, there was no alcohol involved, and it was only about 9 PM. He had warned us about an hour before about keeping the fire controlled, even though the flames were really low and in an enclosed pit, surrounded by gravel with a hose very close at hand. The fire department came in full gear with their lights on, only to inspect the area and find out that everything was completely safe and legal. I know it's better safe than sorry, but this man was wasting emergency responders' time over probably the safest bonfire I've ever been to. I had a lady yell out the window of her car that roads are not for bikes. She then proceeded to rear-end the vehicle in front of her. When I was 15, I was vacationing with my family near the Ocean City Boardwalk. For those who don't know, it's basically a mile or two of stores, restaurants, and arcades positioned on a wooden walkway near the beach. Anyway, one day I'm on the boardwalk by myself, going to arcades, enjoying myself, when I accidentally drop my driver's permit down the cracks of the boardwalk. Not wanting to lose it, I head on down below the boardwalk. It's about 3 feet above the beach, and really easy to get under, and retrieved my card. As I exited, there was this guy standing near where I came out, and accused me of stealing someone's credit card. I told him it was my driver's permit, showed it to him, and walked off. Cute. About an hour later when I'm back at the rental house, when the police knock on the door. They told me they were called about someone stealing a credit card. I explained the story, showed them my permit, and they laughed and walked off. Apparently, the guy followed me for another 30 minutes on the boardwalk, a 15-year-old, through arcades, and then half a mile back to the house. Just so he could call the cops on me. It both pissed me off to no ends, and creeped me out knowing someone could stalk me that long without me noticing. TLDR, guy thinks I stole a credit card when I was retrieving my driver's permit. I show him the permit. He apparently stalks me for a good while, follows me back to my house, and calls the cops on me. I was wandering around a sporting goods store the other day. I'm 26, and apparently I look shifty. A very, very obvious undercover store security guy was following me around. So I started looking at gun holsters. I need a new one, and was there for about half an hour, when I realized what he was doing. I walked to the other side of the store, he followed. I weaved in and out of shelves until he lost me, then circled around behind him and started looking at stuff next to him. He saw me and sort of jumped. I pretended not to notice, and then retreated a distance to continue watching me. Long story slightly shorter, I spent the next hour just making him follow me around the place for the hell of it. Then I lost him on the second floor, waited to make sure he saw me from the balcony, waved, and left. When I was a toddler, my mom, who was pregnant at the time, would tie me to the clothesline with a lead. Think like a dog run. I could run back and forth along the clothesline, as far as the lead would allow me. The neighbor lady always scolded my mother for doing this, saying it was cruel to treat me like a dog. I honestly don't even remember it, so I doubt it was very traumatic. My mom replied that she was 9 months pregnant with my brother, and having me kept within a certain radius made it much easier for her to keep an eye on me. So, my mom was keeping an eye on me playing in the backyard one day, and the lady came over to yell at her about it again. Crazy neighbor lady ending up untying me. I took off, running straight into the middle of an extremely busy street, my pregnant mother screaming and running after me to catch me. I could have been killed because some stupid lady thought that having me tied to a clothesline was too cruel, but didn't bother to consider that maybe a 2-year-old near a busy street should be restrained somehow. Honestly, crazy lady, wherever you are, you did me no favors that day. I once loaded my groceries and my son, who was about to, into my car, locked the car and walked 10 feet to put the cart up. This woman ran out of nowhere screaming that I had abandoned my son in the car to go shopping, and called the police on her cell phone. I said, I am right here putting up the cart, not even walking in the direction of the store. She said she knew what I was up to. I just calmly got in my car and drove off. Good thing you drove off. I had a more or less similar situation, and I didn't drive off. Was at Walmart, and girlfriend and I were arguing. Okay, we were screaming at each other in the car. She moves to get out of the car, and I say something along the lines of, "Stop. This is dumb. It's not worth losing you over," and gave her a hug. Some putz with bad eyesight saw it and thought I punched her. He calls his 2 buddies in the store, and tells them his version. They come out just as the cops get there. I tell my side, she tells the same story, and these 3 donkbags tell their fake story. I went to jail for the night, and couldn't go home for a week because I had given my girlfriend a hug in public. When the case went to court, the DA took one look at the evidence, then called the cop a goddamn time wasting moron that couldn't be pissed to look at the ducking tape, and threw the case out. The cop hadn't even bothered to look at the security camera. My first dog was actually abducted from my front yard by a vigilante. So, I live kind of out in the country, and we have a big yard. We never put our dog on a leash because she doesn't like them, and we don't need to put her on one. Well, one day we couldn't find our dog, and she never wanders away. After searching for a while, we get a call from the local humane society saying someone has brought in our dog. My dad goes down there and asks who brought our dog there. Apparently some guy saw our dog in the front lawn, and decided she wasn't safe, so he took her. She was a friendly dog that loved car rides, so of course she went with him. When bringing her in, the guy used his belt as a makeshift leash, and my dog bit right through it as well as one of the leashes at the Humane Society. The lady at the Humane Society tells my dad that he needs to have a leash to take his dog home, and that he will have to pay for the belt and the leash. My dad informs her that the guy has stolen his dog, and he is lucky he doesn't press charges. They release our dog, without a leash, and she happily climbs in my dad's truck and they go home. TLDR, some asshole stole my dog and had his belt chewed through.